What if I told you that a woman born into slavery, orphaned at 7, married at 14 to escape abuse, became the first female self-made millionaire in America? Not a white woman, not a wealthy woman who married into money, not an heiress, a black woman who started with $1.50. Picture this: 1917, Irvington-on-Hudson, New York. Sarah Breedlove Walker stands in front of Villa Lewaro, a 34-room mansion valued at $250,000. That's $6 million in today's money. Sunlight streams through stained glass windows. Her heels click across marble floors. The scent of violet perfume from her signature hair grower product fills the air. She's wearing a gown that cost more than most families earned in a year. 50 years earlier, her mother was enslaved. 20 years earlier, Sarah was washing white people's clothes for $1.50 a day. Not per hour, per day. That's $48 in today's money for an entire day of backbreaking labor. But something happened in those 20 years. Something they erased from every business school textbook. Something they removed from every economics curriculum. Something they buried so deep that your grandmother might have been part of this empire, and you never knew. This is the throne they stole from your history books. Everything you learned about American millionaires was incomplete. They taught you about John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, Henry Ford. All men, all white, all celebrated as genius entrepreneurs who built America. But they never taught you about her. The woman who built faster, who innovated smarter, who employed more people, who created an economic system that lifted 40,000 black women out of poverty. They erased her because she was too dangerous. Because if you knew what she did, you'd replicate it. And they can't control that. What happened in the next 20 years would be erased from every business school. Until now. After this video, you'll understand why they erased the richest black woman from American business history. You'll never see self-made the same way again. This isn't ancient history. Your great-grandmother could have been a Walker agent. This is your stolen economic blueprint. Your ancestors witnessed this empire. Your grandmothers used these products. You carry this entrepreneurial DNA. By the end of this video, you'll know how Sarah Breedlove turned $1.50 into $1 million in 15 years. That's 15 to 20 million in today's money. Faster than most tech billionaires today. Faster than almost every entrepreneur you've been taught to admire. You'll discover why she employed 40,000 black women when their only options were domestic servant or field labor. She created the first multi-level marketing empire run by and for black women. Not exploitation, liberation, economic independence sold door to door. You'll learn how Booker T. Washington and male black leaders tried to silence her for selling vanity products. But she wasn't selling beauty. She was selling economic freedom. She was selling dignity. She was selling a way out of servitude. And they hated her for it because she did it without asking permission. You'll see why they removed her from business textbooks, despite building a vertically integrated corporation with manufacturing distribution training schools and franchises nationwide. She invented business models that Harvard wouldn't study for another 70 years. She pioneered strategies that made white men rich when they copied them decades later. You'll understand how her blueprint for black women's wealth was deliberately buried, and how you can reclaim it today. Because this affects your life right now. The systems that erased her are the same systems that underfund black women entrepreneurs today. Black women receive less than 1% of venture capital, despite Madam Walker proving 100 years ago that black women build empires. Less than 1%. Even though black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America, even though the market is worth trillions, even though Walker already proved the model works, they know it works. They studied it. They copied it. They just don't want you to know you don't need them, and you'll never see the wealth gap, black women entrepreneurship, or the beauty industry the same way again. Because what they told you about why black families don't have wealth, they lied. Your ancestors were building wealth. They stole it. They suppressed it. They erased the evidence. But the truth survived. And today, that ends. December 23, 1867, a plantation in Delta, Louisiana. Sarah Breedlove enters the world as the first child in her family born free. Not freed. Born free. Just 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. 2 years after slavery officially ended. Her parents, Owen and Minerva Breedlove, were enslaved their entire lives until 1865. They knew chains, they knew whips, they knew masters. But their youngest daughter, Sarah, would never be owned. She would never be property. She was born free. But free didn't mean equal. Free didn't mean safe. Free didn't mean opportunity. Think about this. She was born during Reconstruction, that brief period when America pretended it would make amends for slavery. When black men could vote. When black families could own land. When freedom felt almost real. But Reconstruction was dying even as Sarah learned to walk. The Compromise of 1877 would soon end it completely. The Ku Klux Klan rode through Louisiana terrorizing black families who dared to believe freedom meant something. Sarah's parents became sharecroppers. That meant they worked the same land they'd worked as slaves. For the same white families who'd owned them. They planted cotton. They harvested cotton. They gave most of the cotton to the landowner. They kept barely enough to survive. Different words, same oppression. Sarah had 5 older siblings who were born into slavery. She was the baby, the one who was supposed to have it better, the one who was supposed to represent hope. But tragedy came fast. 1874. Sarah is 7 years old. Her mother, Minerva, dies. The records don't say why. Could have been disease. Could have been violence. Could have been the exhaustion of surviving slavery and then trying to survive its aftermath. Black women didn't get causes of death recorded with care. They just died. And the world moved on. 1875. 1 year later. Her father, Owen, dies. Sarah is 8 years old and an orphan, completely alone except for her older sister, Louvenia. Louvenia takes Sarah to Vicksburg, Mississippi. Louvenia is married to a man named Jesse Powell. And Jesse Powell is cruel. He's abusive. Historians don't record exactly what he did, but the evidence is clear in what Sarah did next. Sarah starts working as a child domestic servant. That's the polite term. The real term is child labor. She washes white people's clothes. She scrubs white people's floors. She serves white people's meals. For pennies. For survival. Because the alternative is staying in that house with Jesse Powell, and Sarah can barely read. She attended Sunday school literacy lessons at church. 3 months total. 3 months of formal education in her entire childhood. That's it. She could read the Bible haltingly. She could write her name. That was the extent of her schooling. But she was learning, just not in classrooms. She was learning that the world was not designed for black girls to thrive. She was learning that freedom on paper meant nothing without economic power. She was learning that safety didn't exist for women who couldn't support themselves. So at 14 years old, Sarah Breedlove makes a decision that countless young girls have made throughout history. She marries to escape. His name is Moses McWilliams. She would later say she married him to get out of Jesse Powell's household. Not because she loved him, not because she chose him, because he was the only exit door available. 14 years old. Married to escape abuse. Already the world has told Sarah that her value is measured by what she can endure, not what she can become. 1885. Sarah is 18. She gives birth to a daughter, Lelia. Later, Lelia will change her name to Alelia Walker and become a central figure in the Harlem Renaissance. But right now, she's just a baby. Sarah's reason to keep fighting. 1887. Moses McWilliams dies suddenly. Historians don't know how. The records are incomplete, as they always are for black families in the South in the 1880s. What we know is this: Sarah Breedlove is 20 years old. She's a widow. She has a 2-year-old daughter to feed. She has no education. She has no husband. She has no family support. She has one skill: washing clothes. Think about this. 20 years old, widowed, a 2-year-old daughter to feed. No education, no husband, no family support. The only job available, laundress. Washing white people's clothes for $1.50 a day. That's $48 in today's money. Per day. Not per hour. Per day. Most women would have stayed there, would have accepted poverty as their fate, would have told their daughters the same future awaited them, would have believed that survival was the only realistic goal. Sarah refused. 1888 to 1890. Sarah moves to St. Louis, Missouri. Her 4 older brothers are there. They work as barbers. She hopes maybe they can help her. Maybe St. Louis offers more opportunities than Mississippi. Maybe she can build a better life for Lelia. She finds work washing clothes. Again. Still. Always. The only work available. She scrubs. She boils. She hangs. She irons. Her hands crack from lye soap. Her back aches from bending over wash tubs. She works 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, for barely enough to rent a room and feed her daughter. But Sarah watches her brothers. She watches them cut hair. She watches black men come into the barbershop and pay for grooming, pay for dignity, pay to look respectable in a world that denied them respect. She sees that there's money in appearance, money in helping people present themselves well, money in serving a community that white businesses ignored. She files this information away. She doesn't know it yet, but she's conducting market research. Then the crisis hits. Mid-1890s. Sarah starts losing her hair, not just thinning, losing. Alopecia. Bald patches appearing on her scalp, hairline receding, crown showing. For any woman, this is devastating. But for a black woman in the 1890s, trying to find work, trying to attract a husband, trying to maintain dignity in a world that already devalues you, this is catastrophic. The causes were multiple. Stress. Absolutely. Imagine the stress of being a widowed single mother, working brutal hours for survival wages. Malnutrition. Obviously. When you're earning $1.50 a day, you're not eating well. You're feeding your daughter first. You're eating what's left. But there was another cause that white historians love to ignore. The hair products available were toxic. They were designed for white women's hair. Straight hair. Fine hair. Different texture entirely. Black women were using these products anyway, because there were no alternatives. Products with harsh chemicals. Products with lye that burned. Products that damaged instead of nourished. And there was no knowledge. No information about how to care for black hair specifically. No books written by black women for black women about hair care. No culturally specific wisdom passed down because slavery had disrupted those traditions. Enslaved women had been forced to cover their hair, forced to cut it short, forced to neglect it. An entire generation of knowledge about African hair care had been severed. So Sarah, like thousands of other black women, was struggling. Her hair was falling out. Her scalp was damaged. And no product on the market helped. She tried everything she could afford. Homemade remedies passed by word of mouth. Store-bought tonics that promised miracles. Nothing worked. She consulted her brothers. They knew hair. They knew grooming. But they knew men's hair. Barbering techniques didn't translate. She needed something else. Something that didn't exist yet. So Sarah started experimenting. This is between 1903 and 1905. She's working as a laundress by day, By night, she's mixing ingredients in her kitchen, trying different combinations, testing them on herself, documenting what works and what doesn't. She learns about sulfur. Precipitated sulfur treats dandruff and scalp conditions. She adds it. She learns about copper sulfate, helps with fungal issues. She adds it. She uses beeswax as a base, petroleum jelly for consistency, coconut oil for moisture, and violet extract perfume because sulfur smells terrible. And if women won't use it because of the smell, it doesn't matter if it works. This isn't guesswork. This is chemistry. Self-taught chemistry by a woman with 3 months of formal education. She's conducting experiments, observing results, iterating, improving. She's a scientist without the title, an entrepreneur without the capital, an inventor without the patent, and eventually she creates something that works. Madam Walker's wonderful hair grower, a thick pomade that nourishes the scalp, promotes growth, and treats the damage that years of harsh products and stress have caused. But it's not just the product. She develops a whole system. The Walker system. First, shampoo regularly with a gentle vegetable-based cleanser, not the harsh soaps most people used. Then apply the hair grower directly to the scalp. Massage it in thoroughly. Then use Glossine pressing oil when heat styling. The oils protect the hair from heat damage. This is revolutionary. She's not just selling a product. She's selling a method, a routine, an education. She's teaching Black women how to care for their hair with dignity and knowledge. She uses it herself. Her hair grows back, thick, healthy, strong. Other women notice. They ask questions. She makes batches for them. They pay her. Small amounts at first. But they pay. And they come back. And they tell their friends. Sarah realizes something profound. There are thousands of Black women with the same problem she had. And 0 companies serving them. The beauty industry ignores Black women completely. There's an entire market that exists, but is invisible to white businesses. A market hungry for solutions. A market ready to pay. She's discovered her opportunity. But opportunity without action is just a daydream. And Sarah has never been a dreamer. She's been a survivor. Now she's about to become a builder. 1905. Sarah makes 2 critical decisions. First, she marries Charles Joseph Walker. He's her 3rd husband. But this isn't about romance. This is about strategy. Charles is a sales agent. He knows advertising. He knows marketing. He knows how to sell products through newspapers and mail order. He has skills she needs. She takes his name. But she doesn't just become Sarah Walker. She becomes Madam C.J. Walker. Madam. The title is intentional. It evokes European sophistication, French elegance. It creates authority. It commands respect. In a world where Black women are called girl no matter their age, she declares herself Madam. It's branding. It's positioning. It's genius. Second decision. She's leaving St. Louis. She's going to Denver, Colorado. Why Denver's smaller Black community means less competition. Growing city means opportunity. Western location means she can expand east later. It's strategic. It's calculated. It's brave. She packs her belongings. Her daughter Lelia, now 20 years old. Her husband Charles, her precious formula, and her savings. $1.50. Everything she has in the world. Everything she's managed to save from years of washing clothes. She bets it all on herself. She would later say, "I got my start by giving myself a start." Nobody gave her permission. Nobody gave her funding. Nobody believed in her except her. She believed in herself. And she bet everything, all $1.50 on that belief. Most people wait for permission, wait for funding, wait for someone to believe in them. Sarah Breedlove walked away from the only security she had. Walked away from her brothers, walked away from the familiar with $1.50 and a dream of building something that didn't exist. She was 38 years old. Most people would say it's too late. She was just getting started. 1906, Denver, Colorado. Sarah Breedlove Walker steps off the train with $1.50, a suitcase of clothes, a bag of product samples, and a determination that could move mountains. She doesn't know anyone in Denver. She doesn't have a job lined up. She doesn't have housing secured. What she has is her formula and her refusal to die poor. She finds a room to rent in a black neighborhood. She finds a church to attend, because that's where the women are. That's where the community gathers. That's where trust is built. And she starts talking. Not selling yet, just talking. Sharing her story. A widow. A former laundress. A woman whose hair was falling out and who fixed it herself. Other women lean in because they have the same problem. They've been suffering in silence. They've been ashamed. They've been told it's just their hair, just their problem, just something they have to accept. Sarah says, no, you don't have to accept this. I didn't. And look at my hair now. Then she does something most salespeople never do. She offers to demonstrate. For free. Come to my room. Let me wash your hair. Let me show you the system. Let me prove it works. She's not asking them to buy first. She's asking them to experience first. Women come. She washes their hair in a basin. She massages the hair grower into their scalps. She explains each step. Why this ingredient? Why this motion? Why this frequency? She's not just selling a product. She's teaching a skill. She's transferring knowledge. She's empowering them to take control of something they've been told they can't control. And they feel the difference immediately. The way their scalp tingles. The way their hair feels softer. The way she treats them with care and respect during the process. For many of these women, this is the first time someone has touched their hair with gentleness instead of rough impatience. They buy. 10 cents here, 25 cents there. Small amounts, but it's revenue. She takes that money and buys more ingredients, makes more product, reaches more women. 10 customers become 20, 20 become 50. She's going door to door now, knocking on doors in black neighborhoods, introducing herself, demonstrating, selling. This is hard work, exhausting work. Walking miles every day, carrying her product case, getting doors slammed in her face, getting told no, getting suspicious looks. But she keeps going, because every yes means another woman gets relief. Another woman gets dignity. Another woman gets beautiful hair in a world that tells her she's not beautiful. Within 6 months, Sarah is making $35 a week. That's more than double what she made as a laundress. That's $140 a month. That's financial breathing room she's never had in her entire life. She can save now. She can plan now. She can dream now. But she's not dreaming small. She's watching, learning, observing. She sees that her best customers become repeat customers. They tell their friends. Word of mouth is powerful. But word of mouth is slow. She needs to scale faster. She needs to reach women in other cities, women who will never meet her face to face. 1908. Sarah moves to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Why Pittsburgh? Her daughter Alelia is enrolled at a black college there, but also strategic reasons. Pittsburgh is an industrial city. Lots of black families migrating north for factory work. Lots of women who need her products. Lots of churches and community organizations where she can build networks. In Pittsburgh, she opens her first real office. Not just a room where she makes products. An actual business location. The Lelia College. Named after her daughter. It's part office, part training center, part manufacturing facility. She's producing her products at a larger scale now. She's hiring help. She's creating jobs for black women beyond just selling. And she's expanding her product line. The wonderful hair grower is her flagship. But now she adds Glossine pressing oil, vegetable shampoo, Temple grower for edges and hairline, Tedder salve for skin conditions. She's building a complete hair and beauty system for Black women. Everything they need. Nothing designed for white women and adapted. Everything designed specifically for them from the beginning. But the real innovation comes in Pittsburgh. She starts training other women to sell her products, not just as customers, as agents, independent sales representatives. She teaches them the Walker system, teaches them how to demonstrate, teaches them how to explain the products, teaches them basic business skills, record keeping, customer service, territory management. These women become Walker agents. They buy products from her at wholesale prices. They sell at retail prices. They keep the difference. They build their own customer base. They control their own income. For the first time in their lives, many of these women are business owners, not employees. Owners. Think about what this means. A Black woman in 1908 has exactly 3 job options: domestic servant in a white household, laundress, or field work if she's in the South. That's it. Those jobs pay $1 to $2 per day. They offer 0 autonomy, 0 growth, 0 dignity. But a Walker agent? She can make $5 to $15 per day, 3 to 10 times more income. She sets her own hours. She builds her own business. She's respected in her community. She's called Madam Walker's agent with pride. It's a title, an identity, a transformation. 1910, Sarah makes her boldest move yet. She relocates to Indianapolis, Indiana. This is the perfect location for a manufacturing business. Indianapolis is the railroad crossroads of America. Products can ship easily to every region. Costs are lower than in coastal cities. There's space to build a real factory. She establishes the Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company, a factory, not a kitchen operation anymore, industrial scale production. She hires employees, mostly Black women. She pays them fair wages. She creates safe working conditions. She's not just extracting labor, she's providing opportunity. And she goes all in on the Walker agents model. This is her breakthrough. This is her innovation that business schools should have studied, but didn't. She creates a multi-level marketing system decades before that term exists. But her version is ethical. It's not exploitative. It's genuinely empowering. Here's how it works. A woman pays a small fee to become a Walker agent. She receives training at one of Walker's beauty schools, not just product training, business training. She learns the Walker system inside and out. She learns how to care for hair professionally. She learns how to talk to customers, how to handle money, how to manage inventory, how to grow her business. Then she goes out and sells. She buys products at wholesale, sells at retail, keeps the profit. But here's the genius part. If she trains other women to become agents under her, she gets a small commission on their sales too. She's building a network, a team, an organization. This creates incentive to teach, to mentor, to lift other women up. Because when they succeed, you succeed. It's not competition, it's collaboration. It's collective economic power. It's the opposite of crabs in a barrel, it's ladders. Everyone climbing together. By 1910, there are 1,000 Walker agents across America. By 1916, 20,000. By 1919, when Walker dies, over 40,000. 40,000 Black women running their own businesses, earning 3 to 10 times what they could earn in domestic service, building savings, buying homes, sending children to school, creating generational change. Picture this. It's 1916. A Black woman walks into a barbershop in Harlem. She's not there for a haircut. She's there to recruit. She's wearing a tailored suit, purchased with her Walker agent commissions. She's carrying a leather briefcase filled with product samples and training materials. She's confident, articulate, financially independent. 10 years ago, her only option was scrubbing floors. Today, she's building a business. She's employing other women. She's creating wealth in her community. This is happening in Chicago, in Detroit, in Atlanta, in New Orleans, in Los Angeles. 40,000 women, all across America, all building economic power. All because Sarah Breedlove said I can do better. But Sarah isn't just building a sales network. She's building infrastructure. She opens Walker beauty schools in major cities: Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Chicago, New York. These schools train Walker hair culturists, women who can provide professional hair care services in their communities. They graduate with certificates, with skills, with business plans. She partners with Black colleges: Tuskegee Institute, Spelman College. She offers courses. She recruits students. She's creating a pipeline from education to entrepreneurship. She's showing young Black women that there's a path beyond domestic service. A path she's building one agent at a time. She advertises in Black newspapers: the Chicago Defender, the Pittsburgh Courier. Full-page ads featuring photos of successful Walker agents, women who transformed their lives, testimonials, before and after photos, income reports. She's not hiding the opportunity. She's broadcasting it. She's saying, this is possible for you too. And she's building a franchise model. Walker salons open in Black neighborhoods across the country. These aren't just retail locations. They're community spaces, places where Black women can come and receive professional beauty services, where Walker agents can practice their skills, where economic activity circulates within the Black community instead of flowing out to white-owned businesses. This is vertical integration before business schools had a fancy name for it. She controls manufacturing. She controls distribution through her agent network. She controls retail through her salons. She controls training through her beauty schools. She controls marketing through her advertising. Every stage of the value chain, every dollar of profit. And she's doing this while facing obstacles that would crush most entrepreneurs. Banks won't lend to her. She's Black. She's a woman. She's in beauty products which male bankers dismiss as frivolous. So she funds growth from revenue. Every dollar she makes goes back into the business. More inventory, more advertising, more training facilities. White beauty companies ignore her at first. Then they notice. Then they feel threatened. They start creating products for Black women. But their products are inferior. They don't understand the market. They don't understand the hair. They're just trying to extract money without providing real value. Walker agents easily outsell them because Walker actually serves her customers. Racist laws try to stop her. Some cities pass licensing requirements for hair culturists, requirements designed to exclude Black women, expensive fees, difficult tests, English literacy requirements. Walker fights back. She lobbies. She trains her agents to pass the tests. She pays their fees when they can't afford them. She refuses to let discriminatory laws destroy what she's building. And male Black leaders criticize her. Booker T. Washington, the most prominent Black leader of the era, publicly attacks her at the National Negro Business League Convention in 1912. He says she's selling vanity products. He says beauty products are frivolous. He says real Black businesses should focus on agriculture, manufacturing, real estate. Serious industries, not women's beauty. Sarah stands up in that convention. She's not invited to speak. She's not on the agenda, but she stands up anyway. She says, "I am a woman who came from the cotton fields of the South. From there, I was promoted to the wash tub. From there, I was promoted to the cook kitchen. And from there, I promoted myself into the business of manufacturing hair goods and preparations. I have built my own factory on my own ground." I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I am not ashamed of my humble beginning. The room goes silent. Then applause, because everyone there knows what she's really saying. She's saying, I built this without your approval. I don't need your validation. I'm employing more black people than you are. I'm creating more economic opportunity than your agricultural programs. I'm lifting more black women out of poverty than your industrial training schools. And I did it by serving a market you dismissed as frivolous. She's saying, don't confuse your sexism for economic analysis. These vanity products are feeding 40,000 families. These vanity products are buying homes. These vanity products are sending children to college. These vanity products are building wealth. What have your serious industries done lately? Washington never criticizes her publicly again. In fact, he later invites her to speak at his events because he recognizes what she's built, what she's proven, that black women can build corporations, that serving black women is not frivolous, that beauty is not vanity when it's tied to dignity and economic power. By 1917, Madam C.J. Walker's net worth is estimated at $1 million. That's 15 to 20 million in today's money. She's the wealthiest self-made woman in America, not the wealthiest black woman, not the wealthiest woman entrepreneur, the wealthiest self-made woman, period. Richer than any white woman who built her own fortune, richer than the wives of industrialists, richer than heiresses. She built it herself, from $1.50. She buys Villa Lewaro, the mansion in Irvington-on-Hudson that she dreamed of. 34-room, designed by Vertner Tandy, the first licensed black architect in New York. It costs $250,000. $6 million in today's money. It's not just a house, it's a statement. It's proof. It's a symbol that a woman born 2 years after slavery could live like royalty within her own lifetime. She hosts parties there, not just for pleasure, for purpose. She invites leaders of the NUCP. She hosts fundraisers for anti-lynching campaigns. She brings together black intellectuals, artists, entrepreneurs. Her home becomes a hub of the Harlem Renaissance before it even has that name. She's using her wealth to build movement infrastructure, to fund activism, to support culture. She donates thousands of dollars to black institutions. $5,000 to the NAACP's anti-lynching campaign. That's the largest single donation they've received. She donates to the YMCA for black youth. She funds scholarships for black students at Tuskegee Institute. 6 full scholarships. She donates to preserve Frederick Douglass's home. She supports the National Association of Colored Women. She's not hoarding wealth. She's circulating it. She's investing it back into her community, back into her people, back into the fight for justice. Because for her, business was never just about money. It was about freedom. It was about dignity. It was about proving what black women could do when given the chance. But the real shock comes when you see who was behind this all along. A woman with 3 months of education. A woman who started as a laundress. A woman born into the shadow of slavery. A woman who was told her entire life that her dreams were too big, her ambitions too bold, her ideas too radical. She proved them all wrong. And what happened next proves they knew exactly what they were doing. Hold that thought, because what I'm about to show you changes everything. Madam C.J. Walker wasn't alone. She wasn't an exception. She wasn't a lucky anomaly in a sea of black poverty. She was part of a generation, a movement, a wave of black women entrepreneurs who built million-dollar empires between 1900 and 1930, and they erased every single one of them. Let me introduce you to the women they don't want you to know, the women who proved Walker wasn't a fluke, the women who demonstrated that black women building wealth was a pattern, not an accident. Annie Turnbow Malone, Born 1869 in Metropolis, Illinois, orphaned at a young age like Walker. Started experimenting with hair care products in the 1890s. Developed her own formula before Walker did. Founded the Poro Company in 1900. 6 years before Walker started her business, Malone built a hair care empire that rivaled and exceeded Walker's. She opened Poro College in St. Louis in 1918. Not just a beauty school, a 4-story complex that included a manufacturing plant, a retail store, a beauty school, a dining hall, an auditorium, and a rooftop garden. It employed 175 people. It trained 75,000 Poro agents, more than Walker's 40,000. At her peak in the 1920s, Annie Malone's net worth was $14 million. $14 million. In 1920s money. That's over $200 million today. She was richer than Walker. She succeeded before Walker. She trained more agents. She built a bigger physical empire. So why does everyone know Madam Walker's name but not Annie Malone's? Because they erased her twice. First from history, then from memory. Business textbooks don't mention her. Economics courses don't study her. When people talk about black women millionaires, they mention Walker, rarely Malone. Even though Malone was more successful by almost every metric, they erased the woman who was richer than the woman they already erased. That's how deep the suppression goes. Maggie Lena Walker. No relation to Madam Walker. Born 1864 in Richmond, Virginia. Daughter of a formerly enslaved woman. Started working at 14 for the Independent Order of St. Luke, a black mutual aid society. Rose through the ranks, became the executive secretary-treasurer in 1999. In 1903, Maggie Lena Walker did something unprecedented. She chartered the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. She became the first black woman to charter a bank in the United States. Not just work at a bank. Charter one. Own one. Run one. Under her leadership, the bank thrived. It provided loans to black families who couldn't get credit from white banks. It financed black businesses. It helped black families buy homes. It created economic stability in the black community of Richmond. She employed hundreds of people. She managed assets worth millions. And she did this while being paralyzed from the waist down after 1928. She ran a bank from a wheelchair in an era where disabled people were hidden away. She was black, a woman, and disabled. And she was more successful than most able-bodied white male bankers. Banking textbooks don't teach about her. Finance courses don't study her. History books mention male bankers from that era. They skip Maggie Lena Walker. Even though she pioneered community banking models that wouldn't become mainstream until decades later. Even though she proved black women could manage complex financial institutions. Even though she created generational wealth for thousands of families. They erased her because a black woman who controls capital is too dangerous. A black woman who can approve loans. Who can deny white applicants if she chooses. Who can fund black businesses without white permission. That threatens the entire economic order. So they removed her from the narrative. Do you see the pattern? Now, every time black women built wealth through entrepreneurship, they erased them. Every time black women created economic systems that employed thousands, they removed them from the textbooks. Every time black women became millionaires, without white capital, without white approval, without white permission, they made sure future generations wouldn't know. This wasn't an accident. This was policy. This was systematic. This was intentional. Madam Walker wasn't an anomaly. She was part of a movement, a generation of black women who refused to accept domestic servitude as their only option. Who refused to wait for white people to grant them opportunity, who built their own economic systems, who became millionaires, who employed tens of thousands, who transformed their communities, and they erased all of them. Every single one. They wanted you to believe black wealth comes from sports entertainment or white patronage. They didn't want you to know that your great-grandmothers were building empires, that black women were millionaires 100 years ago, that the blueprint for economic independence was written by black women in the 1900s and 1910s. They erased it because if you knew, you'd replicate it. If you knew black women built million-dollar corporations without venture capital, without bank loans, without white investors, you'd do it too. And they can't control that. They can't gatekeep that. They can't profit from that. So they buried it. They removed it from textbooks. They excluded it from business school curricula. They made sure that when you think of American millionaires, you think Rockefeller, Carnegie, Ford. Men. White. Celebrated. When you think of women entrepreneurs, you think modern figures. Oprah. Maybe Estee Lauder, if they're being generous. Never Walker. Never Malone. Never Maggie Walker. They teach you that black women need white institutions to succeed. That venture capital is necessary. That bank loans are required. That you need their permission, their funding, their approval. They teach you dependence. They teach you limitation. They teach you to wait for them to open doors. But Walker, Malone, and Maggie kicked those doors down. They built their own buildings. They created their own banks. They funded their own growth. They succeeded despite every obstacle. And that success was so threatening, so revolutionary, so powerful, that they had to erase it. Because if you knew what your great-grandmothers did, you'd know you don't need them. You never did. So how do you erase a millionaire? How do you take a woman who employed 40,000 people and make her disappear? How do you remove the first female self-made millionaire from American history books? Let me show you the exact playbook they used, because understanding how they did it is the first step to making sure they never do it again. Step 1. Exclude from educational curriculum. This is the most powerful form of erasure because it's invisible. They don't burn books about Walker. They simply never write them. They don't ban her from schools. They simply never include her. Harvard Business School has over 7,000 case studies in their collection. Guess how many are about Madam C.J. Walker Zero? Until 2016. 100 years after she built one of the most innovative business models in American history, Harvard finally acknowledged her existence. 100 years. Stanford. Wharton. MIT Sloan. Same story. They teach you about Ford's assembly line innovation. They don't teach you about Walker's agent training system, which was more innovative and more scalable. They teach you about Carnegie's vertical integration. They don't teach you that Walker did the same thing decades earlier, with less capital and more obstacles. Why? Because if business students especially, black women, business students, learned that Walker built a $1 million company in 15 years with $1.50 in starting capital, without loans, without investors, without white approval, they'd replicate it. And that threatens the entire venture capital model that keeps black women entrepreneurs dependent on white gatekeepers. High schools are worse. A 2018 survey found that only 12% of American high schools teach about Madam Walker in their business or history classes. 12%. Most black students learn about Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. They learn about protest. They learn about civil rights. They don't learn about black economic empowerment models. They don't learn about wealth building. They don't learn about entrepreneurship. They teach you how to protest poverty. They don't teach you how to build wealth. That's not an oversight. That's intentional. Because protesters can be managed. Entrepreneurs who don't need the system, they're uncontrollable. Step 2. Change the narrative. When they do mention Walker, they frame her carefully. She's a beauty mogul. She got lucky with vanity products. She capitalized on Black women's insecurity about their hair. She was in the right place at the right time. They never say she was a business genius who identified an underserved market, developed a product solution, created a revolutionary distribution system, built vertical integration, employed tens of thousands, and generated millions in revenue, all while facing racism and sexism. That's not luck. That's excellence. That's strategy. That's capitalism executed better than the white men who got all the credit. But calling her a beauty mogul diminishes her. It makes her sound frivolous, like she sold makeup to vain women, not like she created an economic liberation system that transformed 40,000 lives. Not like she pioneered business models that Harvard wouldn't study for another century. They frame her as an exception, a remarkable story, an inspiring anomaly, never as an exemplar, never as someone whose methods should be taught and replicated, always as someone to admire from a distance, never as someone to study and copy. Step 3. Media manipulation and gender dismissal. White newspapers in Walker's time largely ignored her success. When they did cover her, it was dismissive. Society pages might mention her mansion. They didn't analyze her business model. They didn't interview her about strategy. They treated her like a curiosity, not like the industrial titan she was. Black newspapers celebrated her. The Chicago Defender, the Pittsburgh Courier. They featured her regularly. They detailed her success. They promoted her agents. They understood what she represented. But white mainstream media had 100 times the circulation. Their narrative won. Their silence spoke louder than Black newspapers' praise. And even within the Black community, she faced gendered criticism. Booker T. Washington called her products frivolous. Male Black leaders said real businesses were agriculture, manufacturing, real estate. Serious industries, not women's beauty. Walker responded perfectly. She said, "I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm not ashamed of my humble beginning. Don't think because you have to go down in the washtub that you are any less a lady. I went down in the washtub, but I got myself out, and I want to get you out." She reframed beauty products as freedom products. She reframed vanity as dignity. She reframed frivolous as essential. Because she understood what the men didn't. When you're denied dignity by society reclaiming, it is revolutionary. When you're told you're ugly, proving you're beautiful is resistance. When you're locked out of the economy, beauty products become liberation tools. But modern media continues the erasure. When they do cover Walker, they focus on the rags to riches emotional angle, the drama, the inspiration. They don't focus on the business model, the innovation, the economic impact. Netflix made a series about her in 2020 called Self-Made. It dramatized her personal life. It invented love triangles. It created conflicts that never happened. Millions watched. Most still don't know her actual business strategy. That's intentional. Entertainment doesn't threaten systems. Education does. You can watch a movie about a poor Black woman who became rich and feel inspired for an hour. But if you studied exactly how she did it, step by step, strategy by strategy, you might do it too. Can't have that. Step 4. Economic suppression through competition and legal barriers. Once white companies noticed the Black beauty market was profitable, they moved in. In the 1920s and 30s, white beauty corporations started creating Black product lines. But they had unfair advantages Walker agents couldn't match. Massive advertising budgets. Walker reinvested profits into advertising, but she couldn't compete with companies that had been accumulating capital for decades. They flooded Black newspapers with ads. They offered retailers better terms. They undercut prices temporarily to gain market share. Distribution deals with white-owned stores. Major retailers wouldn't carry Walker products. They'd carry white-owned black beauty lines, not because the products were better, because of racism, because white store owners preferred working with white suppliers. Walker agents sold door-to-door and through black-owned shops. White companies got shelf space in every drugstore, access to bank loans that Walker and her agents couldn't get. When white companies wanted to expand, banks gave them credit. When Walker's daughter, Alelia, tried to get business loans after her mother died, banks refused repeatedly. They said beauty products for Negroes isn't a viable long-term market. This was after Walker proved it was viable for 15 years. After she became a millionaire from that market, they knew it was viable. They just didn't want black ownership of viable businesses. Then came occupational licensing laws. Starting in the 1920s, many states created cosmetology licensing requirements. Sounds reasonable until you see how they were designed. Expensive training programs that cost more than most black women could afford. Walker offered training, but now states required additional certification. Discriminatory testing with subjective grading. Examiners could fail black applicants for arbitrary reasons. English literacy requirements that excluded immigrant and poorly educated black women. The same women Walker had been training successfully for years. Walker agents, who'd been working for a decade, suddenly couldn't work legally without jumping through expensive discriminatory hoops. Some managed, many couldn't. The licensing laws decimated the Walker agent workforce. That wasn't a side effect, that was the goal. Protect white cosmetologists from black competition by making it illegal to work without credentials that were designed to exclude black women. Zoning laws targeted home-based businesses. Many Walker agents worked from their homes, mixed residential with commercial, served neighbors, kept overhead low. Cities passed zoning laws prohibiting commercial activity in residential neighborhoods. Guess which neighborhoods got enforced? Strictly black neighborhoods. White women running home businesses in suburban areas ignored. Black women doing the same fined, shut down, criminalized. Step 5. Theft of intellectual property. Walker's formulas weren't protected by comprehensive patents. The patent system was expensive, complex, and hostile to black applicants. Some of her formulas were trade secrets, but trade secrets only work if everyone respects them. White companies copied her formulas, changed one ingredient, rebranded, marketed with bigger budgets, sold as their own innovations. Walker had no legal recourse. A black woman suing white corporations in the 1920s, she'd lose before she started. The legal system wasn't designed to protect black intellectual property. It was designed to extract it. They studied what she built. They replicated what worked. They added capital she couldn't access. They claimed credit. They profited. She got nothing. This still happens today. White influencers copy black creators' content. White companies appropriate black cultural innovations. White entrepreneurs study black business models, then raise millions to scale them. They call it innovation. It's theft. It's always been theft. Step 6. Physical destruction and archival neglect. When the Walker Company declined in the 1930s and 40s, records were lost. Photographs disappeared. Business documents vanished. The factory in Indianapolis eventually closed. Company archives weren't preserved with care. Nobody thought a black woman's business papers were historically significant. Villa Lewaro was sold in 1930. It became a retirement home. Then other things. Walker's personal belongings were dispersed, artifacts scattered, furniture sold. The physical evidence of her wealth and success was dismantled piece by piece. Compare that to white industrialists. Carnegie's papers were collected immediately. Rockefeller's archives are extensive and meticulously maintained. Their homes are museums. Their documents are in major libraries. Their stories are preserved with reverence. Walker's papers. Major libraries didn't start collecting them until the 1970s and 80s. The Smithsonian didn't create a Walker collection until the 1990s, 70 years after her death. If her papers had been from a white male industrialist, they would have been preserved the day he died. The first major scholarly biography of Walker was published in 2001, written by her great-great-granddaughter, A'Lelia Bundles, because nobody else bothered. 2001, 82 years after Walker died. Compare that to Carnegie, who had his first major biography published in 1920, just 4 years after he died. This created a vicious cycle. No preserved records means researchers can't study her. No research means scholars don't write about her. No scholarly books means academics don't cite her. No citations means textbooks don't include her. No textbooks means students don't learn about her. No education means the next generation doesn't know her name. The cycle continues. Erasure perpetuates itself. This is how you erase a millionaire. Not by burning her factory, though economic suppression accomplished that eventually. Not by destroying her products, though legal barriers criminalized her agents. But by making sure her grandchildren never learn her name. By making sure business students never study her model. By making sure economists never count her in their data. By making sure she becomes a footnote if she's mentioned at all. They wanted you to forget. They wanted your grandmother to forget. They wanted the blueprint buried so deep that even if you stumbled across Walker's name, you'd never understand what she actually built or how to replicate it. But the truth survived. Barely. By threads. Through descendants who refused to let her be forgotten. Through Black historians who fought to preserve what remained. Through researchers who knew something was missing and went looking. And now you know. Now you understand. Now you see the pattern. You might be thinking, this is history. This happened 100 years ago. What does this have to do with your life today? Everything. Let me show you exactly how Walker's erasure connects directly to your current reality. The wealth gap. You've heard the statistics. Median white household wealth in 2024 is $284,000. Median black household wealth is $44,100. That's a 6.4 times gap. For black women specifically, $200 median wealth, not household, individual, $200. They tell you this gap exists because black people don't save enough, don't invest wisely, don't work hard, don't value education. All lies. Let me show you the real reason. If the 40,000 Walker agents from 1916 had been supported instead of suppressed, here's what would have happened. The average agent earned $5 to $15 per day. Let's be conservative and say $5 per day. That's $1,825 per year in 1916 money. That's $58,000 in today's money. If those agents saved just 20% of their income, that's $11,600 per year in today's money. After 10 years with modest compound interest from investments or property, that's $150,000 to $200,000 per family. Passed down through 4 generations with appreciation and compound growth, $2 to $3 million per family today. Multiply that by 40,000 families. That's $80 billion in generational wealth from one company in one generation. $80 billion. And that's just Madam Walker's company. Add Annie Malone's 75,000 Poro agents. Add Maggie Lena Walker's bank depositors and loan recipients. Add all the other black women entrepreneurs who were building between 1900 and 1960. The stolen generational wealth runs into the trillions. But it didn't happen. The Great Depression crashed the Walker Company in 1929. Banking discrimination prevented recovery. Occupational licensing blocked agents from continuing work. White competition with unfair advantages captured market share. and the knowledge was erased so the next generation couldn't rebuild. Your great-grandmother was a Walker agent. She was building wealth. She was creating a legacy for you. And they took it. Through laws, through competition, through suppression, through erasure. You're not starting from zero because your ancestors were lazy. You're starting from zero because they stole what your ancestors built. The wealth gap isn't your failure. It's their theft. Now let's talk about Black women entrepreneurship today. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America in 2025, starting businesses at higher rates than any other demographic. That should be celebrated. That should be funded. But here's what actually happens. Black women receive less than 1% of venture capital funding. Less than 1%. Even though they're launching businesses faster than anyone else, even though their businesses have higher survival rates in the first 5 years than white male-founded businesses, even though Walker proved 100 years ago that Black women can build million-dollar corporations. Why? Because 98% of venture capital partners are white or male or both. They invest in pattern matching. They fund people who look like them. They ask Black women entrepreneurs different questions than white men. Black women get asked about sustainability, proof of concept risk mitigation. White men get asked about vision growth potential scale. Different questions produce different outcomes. By design. And when Black women entrepreneurs do succeed without venture capital, look what happens. Carol's daughter was built by a Black woman, then sold to L'Oreal in 2014. Shea Moisture was built by a Black family, then sold to Unilever in 2017. Pattern recognition. Black women build brands. White corporations buy them. Original founders lose control. Wealth transfers from Black ownership to white ownership. Compare that to Walker's model. She never sold. She maintained Black ownership until she died. She passed the company to her daughter, Alelia, kept wealth in the family, kept control in Black hands, kept profits circulating in the Black community. That's the model they don't want you to replicate. That's why they erased it. The beauty industry today is worth $530 billion globally. The Black beauty market alone is worth $54 billion in the United States. $54 billion. Black women spend 9 times more on beauty products than women of other demographics. 9 times. That's a massive market. A loyal market. An underserved market. But guess who owns most of the Black beauty brands' white corporations? L'Oreal, Unilever, Procter & Gamble. They studied Walker's model. They replicated her distribution. They targeted her market. They made billions, and they never gave her credit. They never acknowledged they learned from a Black woman. They never shared profits with the community that invented the model. Rihanna's Fenty Beauty launched in 2017 and made $600 million in the first year. Well, because she did what Walker did. She served an underserved market. She created products specifically for women of color. She didn't adapt white products. She built for Black women from the beginning. That's Walker's strategy from 1906. Rihanna just had Instagram and Sephora distribution. But the core insight, Walker figured it out 100 years earlier. Tracee Ellis Ross launched Pattern Beauty in 2019, specifically for textured hair. Multi-million-dollar success in year 1. Again, serving the market Walker identified in 1905. Same need, same customers, same opportunity. Still underserved after more than a century, because white beauty companies still don't understand or respect Black hair. These Black women entrepreneurs are succeeding by using Walker's blueprint, often without knowing it came from her. Because they erased the blueprint. They buried the instruction manual. They removed the case study. So every Black woman entrepreneur has to rediscover what Walker already proved instead of building on her foundation. Imagine if business schools taught Walker's model as thoroughly as they teach Ford's assembly line. Every Black woman with an entrepreneurial idea would know she doesn't need venture capital, doesn't need bank loans, doesn't need white investors. She needs a product that serves her community. She needs a distribution system that employs her community. She needs to keep ownership and control. That's Walker's formula. That's the blueprint they buried. Modern multi-level marketing copied Walker's agent system. Mary Kay, Avon, Herbalife, Amway. Billions in revenue annually. But here's the difference. Modern MLMs primarily benefit white corporate owners, while distributors barely break even. The system extracts wealth upward. Walker's system distributed wealth outward. Her agents built actual businesses. Modern MLM distributors become customers who occasionally sell. Walker maintained Black ownership. Modern MLMs are white-owned. Walker's profits stayed in the Black community. Modern MLM profits go to white executives and shareholders. They took her model. They studied it. They replicated it. They made billions. They never gave her credit. They never taught you it came from a Black woman. They never shared the wealth with the community that invented it. That's not innovation. That's theft. That's cultural appropriation of economic models. That's stealing Black genius and repackaging it for white profit. And it's still happening right now today. They teach you that Black women need white institutions to succeed. That you need their venture capital, their bank loans, their approval. They teach dependence. They teach limitation. They teach you to wait for them to open doors. But Walker kicked those doors down. She built her own building. She created her own economic system. She succeeded despite them, not because of them. And that terrified them so much, they had to erase her. Listen carefully. You are not victims of the wealth gap. You are descendants of millionaires who were systematically suppressed. You are granddaughters of Walker agents who built economic power with their bare hands. You are inheritors of a business model that turned $1.50 into $1 million. You are heirs to the first female self-made millionaire in America, and she looked like you. Your poverty isn't your failure. It was stolen. Your struggle isn't because you don't work hard enough. Your great-grandmother worked harder, and they took what she built. But that means something powerful. If they had to suppress you, it means you were dangerous. If they had to erase Walker, it means she was too successful. If they had to block Black women entrepreneurs, it means you were winning. They don't suppress the weak. They suppress the powerful. They don't erase failures. They erase threats. They don't block people who can't compete. They block people who compete too well. Your erasure is proof of your power. Your suppression is evidence of your excellence. Your poverty is the result of their fear, not your inadequacy. Every obstacle you face. Walker faced worse. She was Black. She was a woman. She was uneducated. She was formerly enslaved through her parents. She was widowed. She was poor. She started with $1.50, and she became the richest self-made woman in America. If she could do it in 1906 with $1.50, what can you do in 2025? With internet access, social media, e-commerce, global shipping, online payments, and a proven blueprint. You can't get a business loan, neither could Walker. She built without loans. You can't get venture capital funding, neither could Walker. She built without investors. You're told your market is too niche. They told Walker the same. She proved them wrong with 40,000 agents and $1 million. You're dismissed as just beauty, or just service work. They dismissed Walker the same. She became a millionaire anyway. Your grandmother might have been a Walker agent. If your great-grandmother lived between 1910 and 1940, there's a real chance she was connected to the Walker system. 40,000 agents, hundreds of thousands of customers. Millions of black women knew about Walker products. Your grandmother might have sold them door to door. Your great-aunt might have attended Walker Beauty School. Your great-great-grandmother might have used Wonderful Hair Grower every Sunday after church. This isn't distant history. This is your family history. Walker agents weren't just salespeople. They were business owners, entrepreneurs, economic freedom fighters. They received professional training in sales, customer service, accounting, inventory management. They earned $5 to $15 per day versus $1.50 for domestic work. Financial independence. They were respected in their communities. Walker Agent was a title of pride. They created a national network of black women entrepreneurs supporting each other. Many agents opened their own salons after training. Some became beauty school instructors themselves. Others trained their daughters, creating intergenerational entrepreneurship. They built economic ecosystems in black neighborhoods, wealth circulating within the community instead of extracted by outsiders. That's what they destroyed. That's what they suppressed. They didn't just suppress Walker's company. They suppressed 40,000 small businesses. They suppressed a national network of black women entrepreneurs. They suppressed an entire economic system that was creating wealth without white permission. Imagine if that system had continued. If Walker agents in 1920 had become salon owners in 1930. If those salons had become chains in 1940. If those chains had become corporations in 1950. If those corporations had gone public in 1960. You would be inheriting stock portfolios today. You would be inheriting commercial real estate. You would be inheriting family businesses passed down through 4 generations. You would be starting from wealth instead of starting from zero. But they took it. Through depression, through discrimination, through licensing laws, through white competition, through erasure. But the knowledge remains. The blueprint remains. The spirit remains. In you. God didn't bring your ancestors through slavery by accident. God didn't preserve them through Reconstruction terror for no reason. God didn't allow Walker to rise from $1.50 to $1 million just to inspire you. He did it to show you the way, to give you a blueprint, to prove it's possible. Walker was a devout Christian. She attended church every Sunday. She tithed generously. She donated to Christian organizations. She prayed before business decisions. And God blessed her business beyond imagination. Not because she was lucky, because she wasn't just building wealth for herself. She was creating opportunity for her people. She was lifting her community. She was using her business as ministry. The Bible describes the Proverbs 31 woman. She considers a field and buys it. From her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. That's Madam Walker. That's a biblical businesswoman. That's what God calls women to do. Build, trade, profit, employ, bless. And they erased her because a financially independent black woman who didn't need white approval was too dangerous. She threatened the social order. She proved black women could be queens, economic power, business mastery, wealth generation. That's your inheritance, not poverty, not servitude, queenship. You're alive right now for a reason. In 2025, with access to Walker's story, with access to her blueprint, with access to tools she never had. Internet, social media, global markets, funding platforms, online education, digital distribution. God is saying, finish what she started. She built the first million. You build the first billion. She employed 40,000 women. You employ 400,000. She proved it's possible. You prove it's replicable. This is your Esther moment. For such a time as this. You were born for this. Your ancestors prepared this path. Now walk it. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for funding from people who will never respect your vision. Don't wait for systems that were designed to exclude you. Don't wait for validation from institutions that erased your history. Start where Walker started. With what you have. With what you know. With who you can serve. Find the market that's underserved. Create the product that's needed. Build the system that employs your people. Keep ownership. Keep control. Keep profits in your community. That's the Walker blueprint. That's your inheritance. That's your assignment. Pause right here. If this truth is hitting you hard right now, I need you to do something. Comment "First Millionaire" below if you never learned that a black woman was America's first female self-made millionaire. Let me see how many of us were robbed of this knowledge. I want to see that comment section flooded. I want thousands of voices saying we didn't know. We weren't taught. They hid this from us. Hit that like button if you're angry that business schools teach you about Rockefeller, but not Walker. That like tells YouTube to push this video to more black women who need to know they come from millionaire DNA. The algorithm works for us when we use it. Every like is a vote to spread this truth further. And share this with a black woman entrepreneur, you know. Your sister trying to start a business. Your cousin with a side hustle. Your niece who thinks she needs white investors to succeed. Your mother who's been dreaming of a business for 20 years but never thought she could. Your daughter who needs to know she comes from Queens. Send her this video. Text it to her right now. Don't wait. Don't assume she'll find it. Make sure she sees it, because they buried this story for a reason. They didn't want us to know we can build empires without them. They didn't want us to know the blueprint already exists. They didn't want us to know that our great-grandmothers were doing it successfully until they stopped them. But now you know. And knowledge without action is just information. It dies with you unless you pass it on. So comment, like, share, right now, while it's fresh, while you're fired up, while the truth is burning in your chest, while the anger at what was stolen is mixed with pride at what was built, while you're realizing you're not starting from zero, you're reclaiming stolen ground. We're going to make sure every black woman in America knows Madam Walker's name by the end of this year. Will you help me? Show me in the comments. If you made it this far, you're not here by accident. God put this video in front of you today for a reason. You could have clicked away in the first 30 seconds. You didn't. You could have gotten distracted halfway through. You didn't. You stayed. You listened. You learned. That means something. That means you're ready. Ready for truth. Ready for change. Ready for action. So here's what you're going to do. Subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. We're exposing hundreds more stories like this. The black woman who invented the modern traffic light, and they gave credit to a white man. The all-black town that became wealthy, and they burned it down. The black scientists whose inventions were stolen and patented by white colleagues. The black Wall Street that thrived for 40 years before they destroyed it. The black cowboys who built the West, and were erased from every Western movie. Every week a new stolen throne. Every week a new erased millionaire. Every week a new piece of proof that you come from excellence, that your ancestors were geniuses, that your poverty is manufactured, not natural, that your struggle is the result of suppression, not inferiority. If you don't subscribe, you'll miss it. And this knowledge is your inheritance. You can't afford to miss it. Share this video with your daughters, with your granddaughters, with your nieces, with every young Black girl in your life who's being taught that success means waiting for white approval. They need to know that a woman who looked like them built an empire from $1.50. They need to know they don't need permission. They don't need white investors. They don't need approval. They need knowledge. They need the blueprint. They need examples. And you're holding it right now. So share it. Teach it. Pass it down. Talk about it at family dinner. Bring it up at church. Discuss it in your book club. Post it on your social media. Don't let them erase us again. Madam Walker fought too hard for you to stay silent. Your ancestors built too much for you to forget. This is your inheritance. Claim it. Protect it. Multiply it. You are not a victim of the wealth gap. You are an heir to a stolen empire. You are not starting from scratch. You are picking up where they forced your great-grandmother to stop. You are not the first. You are the continuation, the restoration, the reclamation. Walk in that power. Build on that foundation. Honor that legacy. Bow your heads with me. Let's pray. Father God, we come before you today with hearts full of wonder and fire. Wonder at the miracle of Madam C.J. Walker. Fire for the justice she deserves, and we deserve. We thank you for Sarah Breedlove, born into the shadow of slavery, orphaned at 7, widowed at 20, starting with $1.50, and you turned her into a millionaire. You turned her into an employer of 40,000 women. You turned her into a philanthropist. You turned her into a queen. Lord, that wasn't luck. That was your hand. That was your blessing. That was your plan. We thank you for preserving her story when they tried to erase it. We thank you that her great-great-granddaughter wrote her biography. We thank you that we can learn her name today. We thank you that the truth survived even when they buried it for 100 years. Father, we pray for every Black woman watching this right now. Every woman who's been told she can't. Every woman who's been denied a loan because of the color of her skin. Every woman who's been dismissed as too niche or not scalable, when white men with worse ideas get millions. Every woman who's been told she needs white approval to succeed. Every woman who's been trying to start a business but doesn't know where to begin. Every woman who's been working 3 jobs and still can't get ahead. Remind her, she comes from Walker. She carries millionaire DNA. She doesn't need permission, she needs a plan. She doesn't need white capital. She needs faith and hustle and strategy. She doesn't need their approval. She needs your blessing. And Lord, you've already blessed her. You've already equipped her. You've already prepared the way. Now give her the courage to walk it. Bless the Walker agents who built wealth with their hands. The 40,000 women who sold door to door, who trained other women, who served their communities, who created opportunity when the world offered only servitude. Bless their descendants. Bless their memory. Let their legacy rise from the ashes of erasure. We pray for restoration of what was stolen. We pray for reparations, not as charity, but as debt repayment. They owe us. They stole from us. They suppressed our businesses. They erased our history. They destroyed our generational wealth. We're not asking for handouts. We're demanding what's owed. And Lord, you are a God of justice. You see what was stolen. You will restore what was taken. We pray for Black women entrepreneurs to receive the funding resources, recognition, and respect they deserve. Break down the barriers. Open the doors. Remove the gatekeepers. Let Black women build without obstruction. Let them scale without suppression. Let them succeed without being forced to sell to white corporations. Let them keep ownership Keep control. Keep wealth in Black hands. We pray for our daughters and granddaughters. Let them learn Walker's name before they learn to doubt themselves. Let them know they are descendants of empresses before the world tells them they're inferior. Let them walk in that power. Let them build on that foundation. Let them finish what Walker started. Give us Walker's courage, her vision, her refusal to wait for permission, her determination to lift her people while building her wealth, her faith that you would provide even when banks wouldn't, her persistence when male leaders criticized her, her grace under pressure, her wisdom in business, her generosity in success. Make us like her Lord. Raise up 10,000 new Walkers, 100,000, 1,000,000, and Lord, we declare, we will not be erased again. We will not have our wealth stolen again. We will not let them bury our history again. We will teach this story. We will build on this blueprint. We will honor this legacy until every Black woman entrepreneur is funded, until every Black girl knows she comes from millionaires, until Walker's name is in every business school, until justice flows like a river and wealth builds like compound interest. We bind the erasure of Black excellence. We loose the truth of Black economic power. We claim the inheritance Walker prepared for us. We declare that what was stolen will be restored. What was buried will be resurrected. What was suppressed will explode into full manifestation. In the name of Jesus, who said, "Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven." We bind poverty. We loose prosperity. We bind limitation. We loose expansion. We bind erasure. We loose remembrance. Amen and amen. Madam C.J. Walker said, "I am not satisfied with making money for myself. I endeavor to provide employment for hundreds of women of my race." That's not just business. That's ministry. That's mission. That's purpose. That's what God called her to do. And He's calling you to the same thing. Build wealth. Train women. Remember the first. Walk in her truth. Build on her blueprint. Claim your throne. You are not a victim of the wealth gap. You are an heir to a stolen empire. You aren't forgotten. You are remembered. You aren't erased. You are resurrected. You aren't starting over. You are continuing. God bless you. Stay dangerous. Stay building. Stay free. Until next time, build wealth. Train women, remember the first.